The best is Messi.
Ronaldo un campione, numero uno.
Messi is number 9, number 10, number 11.
Ronaldo will be remembered as one of the best soccer players in the world.
A lo mejor también de la historia es Leo Messi.
The most remarkable thing about these players is they've been doing it for pretty much their whole career.
Quando hai Cristiano nella tua squadra hai 80% per vincerla.
Two all-time greats playing in the same era. One blessed with the talent of a timeless genius. The other, the epitome of hard work and sacrifice. The physical embodiment of the modern footballer. But considering Cristiano Ronaldo is now 35 and Messi 32, it's only a matter of time before they leave the game behind. Can they ever be replaced? And how will their legacy affect players in the future aiming to wear the crown? As part of the Future of Football series, Goal's Mark Doyle is putting together an article investigating how football will process the loss when these two legends eventually move on.
When you first came to do this, what were your first impressions of the subject that we are going to have to one day deal with the fact that Messi and Ronaldo are going to retire?
Yeah, God, I suppose when you put it like that, it sounds very grim, given they've been such an integral part of our lives for the past 10 or 15 years. They will leave a void. Your initial reaction is these guys have raised the game, raised the level of football to such a standard. They've taken over the whole discourse, and there's been this debate raging for the last 10 years about Messi versus Ronaldo, who's better, who do you side with. It's almost as if it's impossible for you to like both or appreciate both. You have to choose a side. So it's been the dominant narrative of football over the past 10 years outside of the Premier League. For even having spoken to Andy West, a famous football journalist based in Barcelona, and he's written a book on Messi called The Art of Living.
I think it's unprecedented to have two players reach those levels at the same time, and especially when you consider that for nearly a decade they were competing directly against each other, not only in the same league, but playing on different sides of maybe the biggest rivals in world sport. I mean, no one else has had a look in. You know, there've been lots and lots of great players over the last 10 years who in any other era would have had a claim to be the best player in the world at the time, but they've just not even been close.
Cristiano Ronaldo joined Man United in 2003, while Messi broke through at Barcelona the following year. 06-07 was a watershed moment as both players achieved double figures for the first time and never looked back. For Messi, his most productive season was 11-12, when he hit 50 in only 37 games. Ronaldo's apex followed in 14-15, when he managed 48 goals from 35 games. During that time, other world-class players have peaked with incredible seasons, but haven't been able to get close to the kind of consistent numbers as Messi and Ronaldo.
Their numbers are an absolute joke. Consistently, year on year, week in, week out. And does that mean that some other players, does that mean that they've maybe gone under the radar and not got the attention or the adulation that they maybe should have done?
Yeah, you'd have to say that, because we could mention so many great players over the last 10 years. That I mentioned even that Barcelona team with Xavi and Iniesta, guys that never won a Ballon d'Or. In the last debate for the Ballon d'Or, you had Van Dijk. Van Dijk had an incredible year and he didn't get near. I think of Frank Ribery back in 2013, won a treble with Bayern Munich and didn't win it. The worry, I suppose, looking forward is that they've altered their perception of what's an excellent season. When I was a kid, you used to look at Robbie Fowler and Alan Shearer hitting 30 goals a season, and that was extraordinary. And now, if someone does that, like Mo Salah a couple of years ago, and breaks the Premier League record, you're kind of going, oh, that's a really, really, really great season, but look what Messi and Ronaldo are doing. And it's like, is it fair to judge them by those standards? It doesn't seem so. And yeah, they've distorted reality to a degree and made the abnormal normal or appear normal, and that could be a problem that we might have to recalibrate our brains and actually kind of rethink about what constitutes excellence, because these guys have distorted that completely.
A lot of it comes down to obviously the mentality of the players, and another who could have done it but hasn't done because he doesn't have that focus is Neymar. In terms of talent, what he could do with the ball was he could do things that Messi couldn't do, but he enjoys other things too much, doesn't have that ruthless commitment to his career. If anything, his football career is a vehicle for his commercial career. So he hasn't been able to sustain his brilliance in the same way. But I think it is possible.
Have we got anybody at the moment? I mean, there's a couple of names that I can think of that are knocking about that are like the pretenders to the crown, if you like.
I suppose the obvious one is Kylian Mbappe, because he's already done extraordinary things. He's the first teenager since Pele, or the only teenager since Pele, to score in a World Cup final. And we knew he was a phenomenon at Monaco, and he's gone to another level at Paris Saint-Germain. And now it seems inevitable that he'll end up like at Real Madrid or Barcelona in the future. So he's a guy that takes the breath away sometimes with his pace. I mean, you go back to the game against Argentina in the World Cup, and you kind of thought, okay, we knew this kid was good, but he's arrived now. He's a star. So he looks perfectly placed. We look at Haaland now. Haaland has exploded onto the scene as well, and he's breaking record after record. And he looks like a goal scoring machine in the Ronaldo mold. So there are guys there, and they're already starting to come through, and they're already starting to put their hand up and say, I'm going to do great things. And they seem to have great self-belief, and they definitely have extraordinary talent.
More and more often now, they're being mentioned in the same breath, the same way that Messi and Ronaldo were. And they're young though, they're still very young. So are we maybe like, is the world preparing for that departure? And are we maybe not reaching a little bit too soon in some ways?
Yeah, it's probably desperately unfair on the two guys who are 19 and 21 years of age, to expect them to just immediately and seamlessly fill the void left behind by Messi and Ronaldo, two all-time greats. However, I think it's a natural craving, and it's probably a subconscious thing as well, that we are already looking for the next great rivalry. And I think it's natural, it's unfair probably, but it is understandable. And sport has always gone to another level, and in terms of interest and supporters, when there's an absorbing rivalry at the heart of the sport. And you've seen it in tennis, you had it for many years with Nadal and Federer. You saw it in F1 with Prost and Senna. And we had it, thankfully, luckily, in football with Ronaldo and Messi at the same time. So yes, I think there's, whether we want to admit it or not, we are desperately hoping that Haaland and Mbappe is the next great narrative.
I mentioned it earlier on about Ronaldo. We've had examples of him leaving clubs and leaving that void behind. I'd say to a lesser extent with Sporting, but when he left United, when he left Real and he went to Juve, does that give us kind of like a window on what's going to happen when both of them finally hang up their boots?
Yeah, I think so to a degree. It's given us a bit of insight into what they leave behind. In terms of Ronaldo, was obviously an incredible player for Manchester United. Looking at the other side, it's not like the departure of Ronaldo affected their popularity. They went from strength to strength in terms of commercial and global appeal, and that's down to the success of the Premier League and marketing itself to the world. And I spoke with Joshua Robinson of the Wall Street Journal. He's written a book, co-authored a book called The Club, based on the success and the rise of the Premier League, and he has some interesting things to say about that. When they move on, when two all-time greats kind of leave the stage, are we going to have a massive void left behind? Are we going to lose followers? Are we going to lose those guys that were drawn to the game, the fans? Or does the Premier League's success and its global appeal and the way it's become a marketing phenomenon, does that show that football can survive without these guys, as long as it's packaged in the same way and continues to deliver the unscripted drama for which it's famous?
Yeah, I think football has shown that it's always been good at that. There was a hugely popular football before those two as well, where, you know, they just happened to exist in this unprecedented rivalry in the very moment where things like social media was blowing up as well. So it created new ways. They kind of ushered in new ways of consuming football, where, you know, you look at how when Ronaldo moved from Real to Juve, there were huge shifts in the two clubs' social media numbers as well. So yes, while there are many things that are unique to them and their rivalry, I think the ways of watching football and the ways of consuming the show they've put on for the past decade are kind of ingrained in fans, and that people will just apply those same kind of habits to new players.
One of the main reasons they've been able to have that consistency and be consistently available to be excellent is the way the game's changed. You know, Maradona got kicked out of games. Pele was kicked out of a World Cup. Opposition defenders would not allow them to play. So playing in the modern era, where since, was it 1992, when FIFA changed the laws to stop tackling from behind, for example, the quality of pitches has improved, the quality of sports science has improved, so nutrition and so on. Messi had physical problems early in his career, they fairly quickly linked it to a poor diet, and he quickly became fitter and lost those injury problems. So I think in the modern era, it's possible to have that continual availability in a way that wasn't in the past.
There's a generation of kids coming through who are inspired by these guys who are going to do their absolute utmost to achieve that level. And you would hope that they have looked at Ronaldo and Messi and thought, okay, these are the sacrifices I need to make. Maybe now the game is a friendlier environment for these kind of players, and that they will be able to last longer, and they will be able to avoid injuries, and they will be able to post something like the numbers we've seen over the last 10 years from Messi and Ronaldo. But if they don't, we shouldn't be disappointed.